welcome this morning. We're going to just start off with the emergency evacuation procedure, please.
Yeah, good morning everybody. There are no planned fire alarms this morning. However, if the fire alarm does sound, we'll exit to my right through the entry doors there and go out onto the grass verge at the front of the building to collect and do a roll call.
Can I just remind everybody for the recording, it is important that you actually do put your microphone on. Thank you very much. Then I haven't got mine on. From David Powell and Tim Clent, who's unfortunately got to go to a funeral today. So we'll move on then. Declarations of interest, I've had none advised. Right. Public access, we've had no public access statements for this meeting. So I want to just then welcome everybody to the meeting. It's a really important meeting that we have to make sure that the accounts are formally approved. So this is an emergency meeting, and as a result of that, we're not dealing with the minutes of the last meeting. This is just a straight emergency meeting. And I'll give my apologies because I was really poorly at the last meeting, so I missed that. So when we do the minutes of that at another meeting, then I'll get somebody else just to confirm that it was right. So this is an extraordinary audit, governance and oversight committee, and we're recording the meeting for the public to view on the Fire Authority YouTube channel.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Just a reminder about the ongoing commitment to inclusivity and accessibility. I'm sure that you are all aware by now that I am deaf. I have placed strategically around the room my Bluetooth Rogers, and I will use my microphone as well as asking you to ensure that you use your microphones, please, and face me when you're speaking to me as best that you can, and keep your voices up. That would be very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe, and I'm pleased to say there's a hearing loop, so it's working really well for me as well. So thank you very much. I'm now going to just start and ask everybody to introduce themselves. I'll start with the members first. So, Jane?
Good morning. I'm Jane Stansfield. I'm one of the 3 members for Thornbury in South Gloucestershire Council.
Thank you very much. David?
I'm David Wilcox, representing Lockleys Ward in the fine city and county of Bristol.
Good morning. I am Onkar Seni, representing Combe Down Ward, Bath and North East Somerset.
Good morning. Councillor Matthew Riddle, and I represent the Severn Vale Ward on South Gloucestershire Council. Thank you.
Good morning, Councillor Kieran Connolly, representing North Somerset Council.
Right. I'd better introduce myself, hadn't I? I'm Paul May. I'm the Vice Chair of the Fire Authority and Chair of this committee, and I represent Pensford and Whitchurch Village on the edge of Bristol. So we'll move on then from this point. So can you introduce yourself, please, Matt, the officers?
Certainly. Good morning, members. Good morning, officers. My name is Matt Cook, Chief Fire Officer.
Good morning everybody. Luke Gazzard, Assistant Chief Officer for Service Delivery.
Good morning, Emma Bowen, Democratic Services.
Good morning, I'm Verity Truscott, Statutory Finance Officer.
Zoe Coombs, Clerk to the Fire Authority.
Lovely. Right, so that's all the bureaucracy. There's going to be an important meeting, so we're going to have to take a vote. And I've just worked the normal way. I'll take any votes against, any abstentions, and then any votes for. So we'll do it in that order. I'm hoping that the report will be quite non-controversial, so I'm hoping that we'll be able to finish in time before the proper Fire Authority meeting later.
Paul, I'm not sure your microphone's on.
Much. Thank you. I'll repeat that then. Any votes against, any abstentions and any votes for. And on the basis that this is an important meeting because we have to sign off the accounts officially, and they were presented at a previous meeting, but there's been a few changes, so we've got to make sure we do it correctly. The independent member is not available today, that's David Powell, but he has sent in, and it should be with the papers for today, a series of questions which Verity will be picking up in a minute. So at this stage, good morning. I'll hand over to you, Verity, to present the accounts.
Thank you, Chair. So as our Chair has mentioned, we have presented these accounts previously to the committee. We presented them at the meeting in December. At that meeting, the committee approved all of the accounts and associated documents, pending Bishop Fleming, our external auditors, completing their final audit procedures and there being no additional changes as a result of those. Now, they did complete they have now completed their final audit procedures, and there were a couple of small changes, which is why these papers are coming back to you today. There are quite a few recommendations in this paper, but what I'll do is come back to those at the end, and I'll move on to, first of all, section 4, the financial implications on page 6 of your bundle. And in there we talk about the audit scale fee. The audit scale fee was set at just under £105,000. Since this paper has been published, we've received the fee variation, which is, it basically captures any audit work that had to be done that was over and above that was assumed when the scale fee was set. And that means that our total audit fee is £121,000. That goes through the PSAA, so the Public Sector Audit Appointments body, because we use them to appoint our auditors. So they have sent me that fee variation, and we will then, in due course, receive an invoice from Bishop Fleming once the audit's completed. I'll move on to section 5 and the key considerations. And this section really just highlights where things have changed since we last presented these papers in December. So the first paragraph, 5.1, talks about Appendix 1, which is the full statement of accounts and narrative reports. That's quite a chunky part of your bundles today, but actually there's only been very minor narrative amendments made since those accounts were reviewed by the committee last time. The overall numbers, so the kind of main statements within them, so the income and expenditure account, the balance sheet account, movement in reserves, those haven't changed. Moving on to Appendix 2, so this is the audit completion report that Bishop Fleming prepare. This is where we have seen the minor changes that I mentioned earlier. So what they've done is added 2 control findings in section 7 of their report. One of them is in relation to having a signed contract and SLA in place with Bristol City Council for our financial services, and the other one is around challenging bad debt provision. So we've provided management responses to both of those, which you'll be able to see in your bundles. They're both ranked as green, so relatively low risk in terms of control findings, but something that we will still be making sure that we address. And actually the Bristol City Council contract is up for renewal, and we will have a new contract in place from the 1st of April 2026, and we'll ensure that that's signed, and going forward we'll have the right documentation in place for that one. The second point in paragraph 5.2 talks about one additional unadjusted misstatement, which is in relation to some incorrect calculations around employee contributions for the firefighter pension scheme. So that's been quantified but not adjusted for, and just been added to their schedule of unadjusted misstatements. Paragraph 5.3 talks about Appendix 3, which is the auditor's annual report. This is the one we sometimes call the value for money report. There have been no changes made to that since the last time it was presented to the committee. The letter of representation is at Appendix 4, and the only change that's been made to that letter is to include that additional unadjusted misstatements. There's a table at the bottom of that letter that includes that now. And then the final appendix is the audit completion notice. So that's something that we have to publish along with the accounts when everything is signed off and approved. We've obviously just updated that to have today's date on, pending approval from the committee today. So that's high-level changes. I'll go back to the recommendations. So there are quite a few. I think there might be 5 recommendations. So the first recommendation is asking the committee to approve the final statement of accounts and narrative report at Appendix 1 for the year ended the 31st of March 2025, and they will be signed by the Chair of the Fire Authority and myself, and they'll be published on our website and also on modern.gov. The second recommendation is to scrutinise and approve the final draft audit completion report and the final draft auditor's annual report for the year ended March 2025, noting those changes that have been made since they were previously presented. Both of them are presented as final drafts because the auditors won't issue us final ones until the accounts are signed. Recommendation 3 is to approve the letter of representation included at Appendix 4 for signing by the Chair of the Fire Authority in conjunction with signing the final statement of accounts. Recommendation D is approve the publication of the audit completion notice in conjunction with the publication of the signed 24-25 statement of accounts and narrative report. And the final recommendation in this paper is to just note that the annual governance and assurance statement previously approved at the December meeting of this committee will be signed and published alongside the approval, signing and publication of the 24-25 statement of accounts. So that was approved at the last meeting, pending approval of the final audit. I will move on to David Powell's questions, and then I will open up the room if there are any further questions. You'll have, I think you've all got a copy.
Just check everybody's got a copy
of his email. I'll just pick up, there are three kind of questions in his email. The first one is around unadjusted misstatements. So he said, while quantitatively immaterial, as Statutory Finance Officer, can you confirm to the meeting that a qualitative assessment has been completed, particularly regarding the firefighter pension scheme contribution calculations, to ensure that these do not indicate underlying process weaknesses that could recur? And then I've drafted a response which I've shared with him, and then I'll share with you as well. We have recently onboarded a new payroll provider from July 2025, and because we knew about these pension contribution calculation issues in the previous system, we've invested some significant time making sure that we built and test the new system as part of our implementation process to make sure that those pension scheme rules and logic were set up correctly. We also have now started completing a monthly internal pension contribution rate check for both the firefighter pension scheme and local government pension scheme, where our payroll manager selects a sample and she sends them across to the pension team for them to confirm that the correct bandings and the correct calculations have been applied, and therefore that the contribution calculations are correct for that month. This has flagged up a couple of minor differences that are currently being worked through and should be corrected for the February payroll. In addition to this, because that's kind of an internal control check, we have had RSM, our internal auditors, complete an advisory piece of work on the setup of the new payroll system and the pension, particularly the pension setup. We have had the preliminary results of that audit this week, and from those preliminary results, the only things that have been flagged are the errors that we were already aware of, so nothing else has come up. So that gives us a good bit of assurance that the system is set up as it should be. We will continue to review that going forwards because there are changes to the firefighter pension scheme, particularly from April 26. There are changes in the banding rates and contribution rates. So changes will need to be made to the system again in April, and we'll consider kind of how we make sure that we've got the assurance that those are correctly reflected in the system going forward so that we don't have this issue again in future. Moving on to his second question. It's around the control findings in Section 7 of the Audit Completion Report. So he said, although as rated as green, the signed SLA and bad debt provision points relate to what could be referred to as judgmental areas. Can the Statutory Finance Officer confirm, one, that the control improvements will be embedded for the 25-26 cycle, and whether any actions rely on external parties in a way that might create residual risk, especially, as the auditor states on page 127, the authority's accounts include provisions for bad debts, for council tax and non-domestic rate arrears for different councils. The provisions used are calculated by applying percentages which management receive from the respective councils. These percentages are accepted without challenge. And then he's also said, will there be greater challenge going forward? The answer is yes. So control improvements will be embedded for the 25-26 cycle. Some of this will rely on external parties, as Bishop Fleming suggests. We have historically just accepted that share of bad debt provision based on the proportion each unitary authority has provided to us. We will challenge this going forward. We will look at historic trends for those bad debt provision rates to help us direct that challenge and look for kind of anomalies and maybe changes in terms of patterns compared to previous years. We will rely on the unitary authorities to support us with this, so there's that external kind of party reliance, but we maintain relationships with all our finance counterparties across the unitary authorities, so don't expect this to cause any issues. And his final question is around the backstop and publication assurance. So with the statutory backstop date of the 27th of February 2026 approaching, can you confirm to me that there are no remaining dependencies that could impede timely signing and publication, in particular whether Bishop Fleming have concluded all their work? Now, Bishop Fleming couldn't be here with us today, but I did speak to Bishop Fleming yesterday to double check on this, and they have confirmed that there is no... they have concluded all of their work, bar final signatures. So there's no expected remaining dependencies following this meeting. So following this meeting, providing all of the documents are approved, I will send signed copies of those documents across to Bishop Fleming, and they have told me that they are expecting to be able to turn it around relatively quickly to provide those back to us, and we will be able to then publish all of those on our website before the end of next week, which means that we will be within the backstop date of the 27th of February. That's the end of David's questions, and I don't know if there's any more around the room.
Has anybody got any questions? David?
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for your... I'd like to thank David Powell for his questions because they're very useful and good groundings for further things. I'd like to talk about HMICFRS because we've had various reports from HMICFRS about the state of Avon Fire and Rescue and over the years, and I would like to receive some verbal assurance, despite the fact we got written assurance that Fire and Rescue Service is still on track to be out of special reporting measures by the HMI, please.
Matt?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. So I've got an interview with His Majesty's Inspectorate this afternoon. It's too early to say what their findings are. We will have a hot debrief, and then the report is expected to be published in June, at which point we'll be clearer about the progress that we've made against this latest inspection. All of the feedback we've had so far has been positive, but there will always be areas for improvement. That's the nature of continuous improvement. We'll always look to grow, learn and develop. We welcome His Majesty's Inspectorate's findings, and we will make sure that we understand their findings, and then we will make sure that's built into our continuous improvement plan going forwards. I'm hopeful that we'll have a positive improvement, and I'm hopeful that we will come out of engage, but that is not a decision for me. That will be a decision for His Majesty Inspectors to make a decision on whether we've reached the improvements you've seen based on the revisits that they've done, and also the FPOG meetings that I've attended, that we've made progress against particularly around the causes of concern. So 2 of them have been closed. We still have 2 that are open around culture, but His Majesty's Inspector recognised that culture takes longer to change, and also in terms of prevention, there's only 1 action which was still open around resourcing. So we feel that we've been able to demonstrate the improvements that we've made, and we've demonstrated by closing off those 2 causes of concern that we have made progress, and we continue to make progress. But I'll be sure to give members an update as soon as we've got the final report in our hands that can be shared publicly. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm heartened by that response.
Thank you, David. And as chair of this committee, I was interviewed by HMI as well. And I think in terms of the functions of this committee, we went through all of those functions and we were able to give really, really positive results for the role of this committee, and including reference to the Bath fire station, which was a really quite a series of questions, but I think in terms of the processes and the governance of this committee linked in with the other committees, it was a really positive message that I was able to give, and in particular reference to the Chief Fire Officer. So thank you for that question. I think it's not necessarily relevant to the meeting today, but thank you. It's something that we're all as councillors are worried about, and we'll carry on working on that in the future.
Any more questions? Can I just ask
one question? You mentioned about Bishop Fleming with their special rate coming back. Is that because they were in a contract with us? So that rate, how do they justify then increasing that figure?
They have. I have to find the page in here, but the scale fee only includes known kind of. It costs the audit based on known audit procedures, and what happens during the course of an audit appointment is there are changes to audit standards and certain things like that mean that actually audit work might increase in certain areas that wasn't incorporated in the scale fee originally. So there will be elements of that which will be kind of all bodies will be subject to those kind of increases. Depending on their size, the value might vary, and then there could be additional fees as a result of if the audit work has been delayed or extended for any reason. So if we've been slow at providing them with information, for example, or if there's been a significant error and they've had to do extra work to get an additional assurance, it might be because of that. We haven't had that this year. These have been, I'm trying to find the page for you because it will show you, they haven't given values in here because it wasn't available at the time, but there's something that shows you the breakdown.
So rather than embarrass you trying to find it, Verity, can I just be assured that we are actually happy with that increase?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So we have an ability through the PSAA to dispute that increase. It's a relatively small increase, and it's because of there are 4 items listed in here. So IFRS 16 was the new accounting standard in relation to leases. So all bodies that have lease arrangements will be subject to additional audit procedures to make sure that they've disclosed that correctly. Additional fees because of the value for money significant weakness that they've raised. So that is in relation to HMI and a significant weakness that we've had for a couple of years. The additional work around provisions. So the provisions work was all around some of those unadjusted misstatements because we had quite a few things going on there. And then a free variation for IFRIC 14, which is to do with pensions. So there are 2 there that are around unavoidable changes in an audit work that they have to legally do. And then there are 2 around some additional work they had to do that's very specific to our audit because of things that have been going on. We are able to dispute that fee, but I'm not proposing to dispute that fee this year. We have done that in the past when we felt that the fee's not been a representative of the work that's been completed, but I'm not proposing to dispute that this year.
Thank you very much. Right, so we've got 4 approvals and 1 to note. So shall we just go through and working on the basis of any objections to item A, approve the final statement of accounts? Any abstentions? Approvals, please. Right, so that's approved. B, scrutinise and approve the final draft audit completion report. Any objections? Any abstentions and approvals? That's unanimous, thank you. C was to approve the letter of representation for the year ended 31st of March. Any objections? Any abstentions? Any approvals? That's unanimous as well. Number 4 was approve the publication of the audit completion notice as shown in Appendix 5. Any objections? Any abstentions? Any approvals? That's unanimous. And finally, to note the annual governance and assurance statement previously approved at the December meeting, which I wasn't at, will be signed and published alongside the approval. So that's just to note. So thank you very much, everybody. Just before we finish the meeting, I think I sit here as the relatively new chair, really thankful for the quality of staff that we've got who've been dealing with this on behalf of the Fire Authority. So I think it would be really quite important for us to make sure we do thank you, Verity, and I'm sure you're not just the only person working on this, your team, for all the work they're doing, because I think it's a great credit to this Fire Authority for what you're doing. So thank you very much. And also in the minutes, I think we should be thanking David for his support that he's given us through the year and his comments today. So at this point then, I'll bring the meeting to an end. Oh, sorry.
Just needed to get someone to propose and approve before the vote, which you didn't do, so I don't know what to do about it.
Right. Okay. So can somebody propose all of those 4 and the note? And seconder? Thank you.
Lovely. Thank
I
you.
see what an awful chair I am. So thank you very much. So do we need to go through those votes again, or are you happy that we do it that way? Sorry.
Yeah, that's
Are you
fine.
sure? Okay. Well, thank you for whispering in my ear. Okay, so I think that's the end of the meeting, and thank you very much, everybody, for coming over to this part of Bristol today. So the meeting now will end the video. Thank you.